Hey everybody, we have another new radio to talk about today. It is the Talkpod A36Plus. But wait, you already did a review of the A36Plus. I sure did, right here. So why am I doing another review of it? Well, because this literally should have been called the A36Plus G2. There's a lot of new features to it. Well, maybe not a lot of new features, but there's some nice new features to it that I like, that I think are worth calling this a Gen 2, and fixed some things, some issues that the original one had. We'll do some comparisons and talk about the differences. So let's talk about the main features here. In the original one, we had 5 watts. New one, we have 8 watts. So that's a nice upgrade. I like that. It is the same size screen, 1.44 inch, same as this one. But on the original one, the screen, the text on here was pretty small. It was, and when you're in the sun, you need as much as you can get. And this one got to be a little bit hard to read sometimes. This one, which much bigger, much bolder typeface on here, is much easier to read. So I really like that. Of course, the power, more power is always good, right? Now, it receives and can transmit on GMRS and ham radio frequencies, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. It can receive airband, so you can listen to aircraft and things. So if you're like a drone pilot and you want to be listening in on airport communications, if you're in that area, you can do that. It has FM radio reception, and it can receive the NOAA weather alerts. So all that is pretty cool stuff. It is IP54 rated. Now, what does IP54 mean? It means it's protected against dust and water like splashes, but it's not waterproof. Whoops, let me turn that down. So you don't want it to be barraged with water. You don't want to drop it into a pool of water. If you've got it on your belt and there's some rain, you're using it in a light rain or something, it should be just fine. But it can't withstand an onslaught of water. So keep that in mind. Not fully waterproof, but fairly water resistant to an extent. So that's pretty good. I like that. That's a nice feature on here. The battery is 3,200 watt hours, so should last a good long time. You want to convert that, it's 23.68 watt hours, and it is a lithium-ion battery, so it should last a good long time. One of the things I like about the A36 Plus models are some of the programmability. So not only on the side do you have the push to talk, you have 2 additional keys here and 1 on top. Normally the top one is going to be like an emergency beacon or something like that, which I have never used in my life. So like, what else would I do with that for? Well, I can set that to jump to the NOAA frequencies or FM frequencies. I can do the same thing with the sides. Now, one thing that I think is really cool about this. Now, as you can see on the display, it can monitor 2 frequencies at the same time. Now, a lot of radios can do that. In fact, most of my radios can do that. Where it's tricky is when you want to quickly broadcast to one of them. When we're on the trail and we're bouncing around in the Jeep and stuff, we've got these in our pockets and things, we will usually go and lock them so that you can't accidentally change the channel, because you're sitting there talking, no one can hear you, or they're trying to reach you, you can't hear them because you accidentally changed the channel. So we almost always lock these. Well, if you do that on other radios and you see something come in on the second channel or the second radio, I guess you could call it, and you want to transmit back, most of them you have to start transmitting within a few seconds, like 3 seconds. So that's kind of inconvenient. What I've programmed one of these to be my push to talk for the B. So the standard one is the A channel, other one is the B channel. Super convenient. Now, why would you want to do that? Okay, that's a valid question. Now, for us, we're on the trails all the time. And when we run larger groups, like our beginner rides and things, we may have an experienced person in the middle, a mid gunner, and one at the end, a tail gunner. And I may want to communicate with them where the rest of the group can't hear. Or they may want to say something to me that they don't want the rest of the group to hear. Being able to have that second frequency on here with very easy one-touch transmitting on here makes that super, super simple. So for me, that's a really neat feature. I love that. Can't speak highly enough about it. Another change that they did that I really like are the actual keys on here. On the original, the numbers are white on the black keys, but the text on here for the different features is a dark blue on black. It's almost unreadable. On the new one, it's white on black for both the numbers and the function. That makes it really, really easy to read. So again, love that feature. Let's talk about what comes with it. And I think it's a pretty good set of options here. We have an AC charging block. Just plugs into your household power. Radio just drops into there, nice and secure. Charges it up really nice. Now on the bottom, it has a USB-C, thank goodness, charging port, not a micro or mini or anything else. USB-C, so thank God they're in the modern age. And so you can charge this in your vehicle, keep it running. It also comes with a USB-A to USB-C cable, as well as a charging brick. So you can just plug this into your wall outlet, plug this into your radio, and you're good to go. However, it has to be laying down for you to charge it that way, versus if you're keeping this, you're in a warehouse or something and you want to keep it on and active, you can just use the charging dock and keep it upright. So gives you another set of options there. Comes with a belt clip, just slides right into the battery. Very handy, nice and convenient. And of course, last but absolutely not least, a lanyard, because everybody needs a lanyard. In fact, I have put these on none of the radios I've ever owned. But for some people, they really like them. So there's that. Now, I'm going to tell you when I received this radio, and Talkpod did send this to me, so that was nice of them. Thank you, guys over there. I really appreciate that. When they sent it to me, one of the things that, the other thing that it comes with, I should mention this because it's important. It comes with a charge, or the programming cable. This is USB-A to the 2-pin standard universal programming cable. This works with most radios, TID radio, Bofang, the Talkpod, a number of different radios. It's universal, works with everything that I've tried. So works just fine. Normally, radios don't come with that, and this is an additional $12, $13 on Amazon that you'd have to order. But it does come with that. Super convenient. Now, we only use GMRS. I don't use airband, I don't use ham radio, so I was able to boot this into a mode. I believe it was push to talk and 8, holding those down while I turned it on, and it just puts it in GMRS mode, which is exactly what I wanted. So didn't want ham, I don't use it, I don't have a license, so keeping it just locked down to GMRS makes everything a whole lot easier. Now, the antenna on here, according to the specs, this is an 8-inch high gain dual band antenna that is tuned for ham bands. Okay, that's what it says. I'm taking this right off their website. So how well does it work for GMRS? And from my experience, damn good actually. Turn that down. On the trails, we had 0 problems with it. No issues, no loss of signal with anybody. Worked absolutely great. So no problems there. Trying to hit our repeaters. Now, the main repeater that I use is almost exactly 30 miles away. That is a pretty fair distance for a GMRS radio, regardless of the wattage, right? My 50 watt in the Jeep hits it absolutely no problem, but I've never had a good connection with a 5 watt radio. So I walked out to the front yard, fired it up, and I was able to hit that repeater at 30 miles away. Blew my mind. I was actually able to have a good conversation. They heard me just fine. They said I was a little weak on signal, but it did work. Very impressed with that. None of the other radios that I've used, the handy talkies anyway, from my location were able to hit that repeater, and this one did. So, how good is the antenna? In my book, good enough, right? Now, I am going to try some other antennas that are tuned for GMRS and see if I can hit some of the other ones that are a little more distance away. But if I can hit 30 miles with this thing, I'm very happy. To be fair, that antenna is way up high. It's north of Denver. It's very high. It's on the top of a water tower, so it has a very good line of sight throughout the area, and there's really nothing between me and it. So it is a very clean line of sight for me to hit that antenna over there. So keep that in mind. If I'm on the ground and I'm trying to hit another one of these on the ground 30 miles away, it's not going to happen. That line of sight's not going to be there. You basically have to have one person on the top of a mountain, the other person on top of a mountain with hardly anything in between. But in great conditions, which I have to that repeater, dang, this thing nailed it. Very, very happy with that. Really couldn't be happier, actually. Let's talk price. Amazon, $49.99. So great price. Now, how does it feel? I think it feels pretty good. It fits my hand well. I've got pretty big hands. The push to talk is in the right place. I can push the other one very, very easily. I can turn it on and off with one hand. Love it. A couple reviews have said it felt very plasticky. Well, I mean, what's it supposed to feel like? They're not going to be metal, right? They're all plastic. But I like it. I mean, it's got a nice texture on it. I don't have any problem with it. I like the feel of it. So no complaints from me on the build quality or how it feels. Kind of like it. I'm a fan of how that feels and looks. Now, let's talk about an out-of-the-box experience. And out of the box, it was wide open. It had everything turned on. I did boot it into the other mode, so I locked it down to GMRS. One of the things that had really piqued my interest when I got it, because it worked with this one, was the ability to use Chirp. Now, Chirp is an app, and I'm going to show you the app as well as their app. I'll show you that to program it for the different things like repeaters and privacy codes and those types of things. But out of the box, their software worked just fine. No problem. When I connected it and tried to run it, load it into Chirp, it got identity ID error, I believe, no matter what I did. And I prefer to use Chirp because my main computer is a Mac. Chirp runs on a Mac and Windows. I tried it on the Windows version as well. Didn't work. So none of the versions of Chirp worked. Their software worked. I sent an email to Talkpod. I told them about it. They said, that's really funny. It's been tested. It should work. They'll look into it. The next day, literally the next day, I got an email back from them saying, go download the new version of Chirp. They fixed it. Okay. So I downloaded Chirp on both Windows and Mac, connected to it, boom, pulled right up. So that, even though it didn't work out of the box, that was not Talkpod's fault. That was a bug in Chirp, and they worked with them and had it fixed literally overnight. Super impressed. Okay, now let's continue with our out-of-the-box experience because it's not flawless. I'm going to tell you that, but it's not horrible either. Let's go in here, and I'm going to run their software first. So we'll get that up and running here. So this is their software. I'm going to go to settings. I'll go to port, select my COM port, go to program, read data from the radio, hit start. Now this will take about a minute or so. I mean, oh, maybe not even that. That was really fast actually. So pretty quick. I'm going to show you a couple things in here that they're minor issues, but still, I think they should be addressed. Out of the box, the power on every frequency was set to low. Why? There's no need for that. The FRS frequencies should be on low. The GMRS frequencies should be on high. Very easy to change in both their software and Chirp. Wasn't a big deal. Made the change, no problem. They were also all set to narrowband, this WN. They should be set on wideband. If your radio supports wideband, you should probably be on wideband. If other radios are on wideband and you're on narrowband, often they're going to have trouble hearing you. The volume may sound really low. If everybody's on wideband, it sounds fine. If everybody's on narrowband, it sounds fine. But when you mix them, and most radios are wideband, then you should use wideband. Okay, let's get back to the power. I want you to look at this at the screen, and only you major GMRS geeks are going to notice that, but on the FRS channels, I currently have those set to high. Well, that's not legal, actually. I can't broadcast high on the FRS frequencies per the rules, but their software allowed me to set it. So if Talkpod watches this and is looking for some recommendations, I think they should lock that down to where those particular frequencies cannot be set to high power. Not a major thing. I'm going to go back and set them correctly before we go out and use the radio again, but I just wanted to point that out. You can set those to high, which you shouldn't, but you are going to need to set the rest of them to high, and you are going to need to set all of them to wideband. So not a huge deal breaker there. Okay, let's quit out of this, and let's open up Chirp, because it is my programming tool of choice. We'll download from the radio, make sure the COM port's set, and you see there's the A36Plus, which is the original, and the 8 watt. So we want to make sure we select the 8 watt, hit OK. It's going to clone it over, and we'll see pretty much the same interface as we saw in Chirp. So they work, if you can use one, you can use the other. Their layout is a little bit different. The power is all the way on the right-hand side. So just minor differences there. Now we can go to settings, and we have all of our extra programmability. We had that in the other app as well. I can change those programmable keys. You can see I have the one set to push to talk B, NOAA weather, scan, search, all pretty basic stuff. You can set the timeout on the backlight. I have it set to 3 minutes right now for the video. Usually I believe the default is like 30 seconds, or I think the default was actually 15 seconds. They're very, very short. But I usually change that so it's a lot higher. And that's it. Write it back out to the radio and you're good to go. So very, very easy to program with either their software or Chirp. Very happy with both of those options. So final impressions here. One thing I absolutely want to point out. The original Talkpod got some pretty bad reviews from the more hardcore GMRS YouTube channels out there for having spurious transmissions. Meaning, if you're on a particular frequency and you go to transmit, it would bleed out past that. So kind of a dirty signal, not very good. For the average Joe out there, your typical user who is just talking to their buddies like we do on the trails, vehicle to vehicle, or on hikes, or your family, you don't need to care about spurious transmissions. It doesn't affect anything. that you're going to notice. It's just a fact that it's not a super clean signal. Now, I believe it's Ham Radio DX. I'll put a link in the description so you can find it easily. They did a technical review of this radio, and the transmission is super clean on it. So they were very impressed with how clean it was, better than most radios. So Talkpod did deliver on fixing the transmission issues on here. So what do we have? We've got a $49.99 radio that can do ham, it can do GMRS, it can listen to airband, it can listen to AM, FM radio, it can listen to the NOAA weather channels. It has dual radio functionality in here, very easy to set up with 2 different push to talk buttons. That's really nice. Very readable screen, very readable keys on here. That fits good in your hand, works good. It's got a big battery on it. And in my testing, works absolutely great. So, is it a winner? Sure is. Is it a Bofang killer, a Tidpod killer, or a whatever killer? I mean, that's up to you to decide based on the feature set. But the things that I see on here are really, really good. I'm very happy with it. It will be a staple in the vehicle for use for the spotter, or if I need to hand somebody a radio because they forgot one, or we're doing a recovery and I need to hand that driver a radio. Excellent radio for that type of communication. Recommend it highly. So check it out. There is a link in the description to purchase this on Amazon. It is an affiliate link. I make a couple cents off of it, whatever. Helps the channel out a little bit. Doesn't charge you any extra to use my affiliate link. So appreciate it if you use that if you want to buy one. Oh, that's my wrap up on the Talkpod A36Plus, which should have been called the Gen 2 or V2 or something like that, because there is enough improvement in here over the original to warrant that. That's my take on it. Thanks for watching. This has been Kerry with Trail Traveler. Be safe out there. We'll see you on the trails.